OSPF means Open Shortest Path First. So OSPF is what version 2 protocol it is, and it is also interior gateway protocol, and it is work within the single autonomous system number, that means within the single routing domain. Then it uses this Bellman-Ford vector based algorithms. It does not use this, it uses the different algorithm which is called Dijkstra algorithm, which is the link state algorithm. It is actually uses the link status. These are the features of OSPF. Like, it is industry standard routing protocol, that means it is not a proprietary protocol. In other hand, we have RIP, which is also industry standard protocol, but it is not good for big network. When you are having a big networks, then it is not good. It does not work properly for big networks. So other protocol, the next protocol came was IGRP. IGRP is good for big network, but it was proprietary protocol. It was proprietary protocol. It was created by Cisco, and Cisco wants that only Cisco devices can use this protocol. So other hand, this is what OSPF supports large network, and also it is industry standard protocol. That means it can be used on any other device, not only on Cisco devices, we can use it on any devices. Then supports only one internet protocol, that is IP. It supports only one internet protocol, IP, but there is another protocols are also available. There is IPX, Apple Talk and all that. It does not support that. It supports only IP protocol. It autonomous system it divides the autonomous system into multiple areas for easy and efficient routing. What those area we'll see now. So first, it has also fast convergence using link state routing method. Previously, when we have RIP or IGRP, they use the hop count as a metric, and they use the distance vector things. So because of that, the convergence time was slow. But this is having a convergence time faster than the previous protocols. Then it uses bandwidth, that is cost, as a matrix. It has a single metric which is cost, and used in a large enterprise network environment. These are the features of OSPF. Now for configuring OSPF, how we can configure it. So this is my network, and I have 4 routers, and this is network 10 I have, which have 2 machines, network 30, 40, 30, 50 and 70, which is connected with these routers are connected with network 20 here, 40 and 60 here. All the IP addresses I have already configured, and now I just want to configure the routing. I want to configure OSPF routing. Now for configuring OSPF, I am going to first router 1. As I said, I have already configured the IP addresses. So if I check show IP interface brief to get the information about the interfaces, so I can see that I have already configured the interfaces with IP addresses, and these interfaces are up and running. Now if I check show IP route to get the routing table of this router, it says it has 2 networks which is connected to this router, which is 10 and 20. 10 is connected to the fast Ethernet network, which is the LAN port, and also in serial port, WAN port, I have this 20 IP, range of 20 network. So it has, in a routing table, it has only connected network. That means there is no routing configured. Now I want to configure OSPF here. So I will go to config mode. Now just like the other routing protocols like RIP or IGRP, we can configure OSPF also by using the router command. Router, and then we can give any routing protocol which we want to configure. So I want to configure OSPF here. So I will mention OSPF here. Now like RIP or IGRP, when I press enter here, it says incomplete command. Now incomplete command means there is something more we have to give which is not given, and without it the command will not complete. So what I will do, I will press up arrow key from my keyboard to get the previous command, and I will press question mark to check what I am missing. And what I am missing is what? Process ID. The process ID is actually, we can have a number from 1 to 65,535. So from this number I can use any number from it. Now what that numbers means? That numbers means actually the process ID. The process ID means what? It indicates the process. It identifies the process. That means what? In a single router we can run multiple process of OSPF, and that multiple process will be identified by the router using this process ID. Now this process IDs are locally significant. Now locally significant means if I configure process ID 10 on router 1, so it is not necessary that I have to configure the same process ID on router 2, 3 and 4. It is not necessary to use the same process ID on other routers. It is locally significant, that means only for this router to identify the process of OSPF we give this process ID. So in other routers if I use different process IDs, then still it works. It is not necessary to have same process ID. But because we are doing the same routing for all these routers, so we should use same process ID so that we will not get confused. Otherwise, in a big network we can have multiple different networks connected to a single router, and also we have multiple different process configured in a single router. So this OSPF basically is very complex routing protocol. It is not that easy like RIP or even IGRP. It is not that easy to configure and easy to manage. It is actually very complex routing protocol. As we can see, it can have multiple different process of OSPF in a single router. So we can run multiple process, and maybe suppose you are running 10 process of OSPF in a single router, then you can get confused about it. So you have to be very careful with the design. That means when you are going to configure, when you are configuring OSPF, so it is very important to design your network properly. It is very important to design your network properly. So the process ID which I want to use, I can use any, and I can use any process ID on any router. So I will use this 10 here. I can use any number from 1 to 65,535. So I am using 10, and I am going to use the same process ID on all the other routers also, so that we will not get confused. And then enter. So this is the command. This is a command complete command. So after giving process ID we can press enter. Now just like the other routing protocols like RIP or IGRP, we just have to mention the connected network. For this router, connected networks are 10 and 20. So I'm going to mention those connected networks by using this network command. So first I'm mentioning 10.0.0.0. Now when I press enter, like in a RIP protocol or even IGRP, when you do this, it is okay, it is a complete command. But here it is incomplete. Why? Because there is something more we have to mention. So what we have to mention here, I press up key and press the question mark. It says it needs what? OSPF wildcard bit. So it needs OSPF wildcard bit, and that is what? It is actually reverse of subnet mask. If it is a class A network, so the subnet mask will be 255.0.0.0. So I just have to reverse it. Reverse it means in place of 0 we will make it 1, in place of 1 we will make it 0. So if the bits are 0 here, so I will enable all the bits and it will become 255. Here all the bits are 0, so I will change it to 1 and it will become 255. Here also it is all 0, so I will change it to 1 and it will become 255. Now here the bits are on, so I will disable all the bits and it will become 0. So this is what your wildcard bit. It is basically reverse of subnet mask. So reverse of subnet mask means where there is 0, you will enable the bits, and if it is enabled, then we'll disable the bits. Now if I press enter, now again it is incomplete command because there is something more we have to give. Now what is that? When I give question mark here, it says you have to provide the area command. It is a command, area. So okay, let's give area command. So now I gave area command. Now when I press enter, it says again it is incomplete because after giving the area command, you have to provide the area ID. Area ID can be a number from 0 to this number. It's very big. That means you can have this number of areas in OSPF, and you can assume like it is very big network. Or even you can give a area ID by using this format. It is like a IP address format, like .1.0.0.1 or something else. So whatever, you can give area ID as IP address format also, or you can use like simple number format. So I'll go with 0, area 0. Now when I press enter, now it is taking the command. That means that is the final command. So only mentioning one network, you have to provide all these other options. You have to provide wildcard bit, then you have to mention the area command, and then you have to mention the area ID also. Not like RIP or IGRP where you just mention the network. You just mention the command network and then you just mention connected network. So it is not simple like this. So configuration is not simple like RIP or IGRP. It is different. Now it is not a burden. These wildcard bits is an advanced feature which was not available in RIP or IGRP. Now we can use this advanced feature. It is giving you extra functionality which was not available in RIP. So this is the one network I have mentioned. There is another network we have, which is network 20. So I will mention network 20 also. Same, it is class A, so wildcard bit will always will be like this. Then again area, and then I will mention area 0 again. Now in this CCNA level, we do the single area routing. So in single area routing, that means all the networks in our routing will be in same area. So if my network 10 is in area 0, so other networks will also be in area 0. Now I have done with this. I have done with this router 1. So nothing I have to do now. So I can now show IP. Now it is not showing it. So it is not showing anything now because other routers are not configured. So when we configure the OSPF on other router, so it will start showing the routing table here. Now when we configure it from the other router, I have configured only router 1. Now when I configure router 2, then this router 2 and router 1, first they will do the adjacency and they will create the relationship between router 1 and router 2. It is called adjacency, and with the adjacency they do what? They create neighbor relationship. This is what the behavior of router OSPF. So it do what? If you configure it with the other router, they will do just create the relationship first. So when we configure it in another router, they will do the relationship first, neighbor relationship. And that we can see when we configure the next router. So as you see, when I configure the next router, router 2, we can see when they create the relationship. So I will go to this show IP route. It is having network 20, 30 and 40 connected. Now I will go to configure the router OSPF. I'll go with the process 10. I can go with another process, any process ID, it's okay, but I'm going with the same process ID. Now network, let's start with the 20. Now this is the default wildcard bit, area 0. Now you see this router 2 is connected to router 1 with this network 20. If you see the design here, router 1 and router 2 is connected with this network 20. So when I configure this network in the router 2, they will do communication and they will create the neighborship first. So when I do this, when I press enter, you will see that they will do the relationship. Just wait for a second. Just wait for some seconds and then you will see that they are okay. Now you see they are creating the relationship here. And it is doing the adjacency and is saying the process ID 10 and this is your neighbor router. And this is your neighbor router's router ID. So when you configure it, they will create the first they will create the relationship, they will create the neighbor relationship, and after that they can go for routing. So I configured this network 20, so I will configure the other networks also same as this. So other network is network 30. Now again the wildcard is same, area is also same. Then network 40. So network 40, same wildcard and area is also same. Done with router 2. Now I can go for router 3. So same as I configure router 1 and router 2, I will configure other routers also. So after configuring all the routers, we can check the we can check the routing table, and now we can see this router knows about all the other networks. We can see the network 10 and 20 is directly connected. Now it knows the network 30, 40, 50 and 60 by O, and O means what? It means OSPF. And how? So this is the administrative value, which is 110. You can see all of these values are 110. Now these are the matrix value. These are the matrix value, and based on the matrix value it finds the shortest path. Then you have this is the first hop address, and this is what the serial port where it can reach that network, and the information has come till this time. This time will update after every, this is an update time. It is actually 90 seconds. So it uses the periodic update also, and that is 90 seconds. So this is how we can configure this OSPF protocol. Now how it works. Now we'll see how this routing protocol works. Now first, when we configure OSPF, so first thing is like how they find the job and how they do. So the first thing, like we have these routers here. I have one router here. I will explain it in two routers. So I have one router here, another router I have here. Now these two routers are connected with the serial port. On the serial port we have IP range from suppose 20.1 here, that is 20.0.0.1, and 20.0.0.2 here. We have another router here, and this router's interface serial connected here, and this will be 40, this is 40.0.0.1 here, and the IP for this port is 40.0.0.2 here. Now they have LAN networks also. So here is the LAN network, which is 10. Here it is using 10, so this is 10.0.0. I will say 100, and this will be 10.0.0.1. So this is suppose my network with the 3 routers. Now what happened when we configure and we start configuring OSPF? This is router 1, and this is router 2, and this is router 3. Now first, when you configure the routing protocol OSPF here, so what happened? First, these routers create the neighbor relationship. Neighbor relationship, that means router 1 creates the neighbor relationship with router 2, and router 2 will create neighbor relationship with router 1. Then router 2 connected to router 3, so it will create neighborship with router 3, and router 3 will create the neighborship with router 2. Now first, there is a criteria to create the neighborship. They will not create anybody as a neighbor. So first they decide who is going to be my neighbor. So for that they have to match some criteria. Now first criteria, which is very important to make a neighborship with the neighboring router, is to have in the same network. So the first criteria is to be in the same network subnet which is directly connected. So router 1 is connected to router 2 with this serial port, and this serial port has IP of 20 and 20 here. That means it is in a same subnet, in a same network. If they are not in a same network, they will not create the neighbor relationship. So the first criteria is to have in a same subnet. So first, router 1 will see the router 2 is connected with me with the same network or not. If you have 20.1 here and 30.1 here in this side, then they will not create any neighborship. The second criteria they will see is to have a same update timer. Now update timer means they have periodic update timer. That means after every, by default after every 90 seconds they update their routing table to each other, to each neighbor. Now if this is default, but if sometime we configure it manually, and if suppose I configured the update timer here in router 1 as a 60 second, and on router 2 it remains on default as 90 seconds, then they will not create neighborship. They will not consider these two routers, the other router, as neighbor, and they will not create neighborship. So first, they must be in a same subnet. Then second, they must have a same update timer. Then also they check the area. That area, that means we configure the area, like area 0, area 1 and whatever. So when they communicate to each other, so they first ask which area are you. So when we configure the router OSPF on router 1, so we add this network 20 in area 0. Then we configure the OSPF on router 2, and again I added the network 20 in a same area, that is area 0. So when these two routers communicate to each other, they say what area you are in. So this router 1 says my network is in area 0, and this router says okay, is also my network, this 20 network is also in area 0. So they say okay, now we are in same area. Now if in case they are not in the same area, then again they can create neighborship. It is not compulsory criteria, remember, it is not a compulsory criteria, but this is also a criteria. Now when these things matches, then they do what? They create neighborship to each other. Now they create neighborship, and after creating the neighborship, then the second thing happens. Now second thing happens is what? After creating the neighborship, now next thing is what they do is what? Is election. These routers will do election. So like first router 1 becomes neighbors to router 2, and router 2 become neighbors of router 3. Now both router 1, 2, 3 is neighbor of each other. Now after creating the neighborship, then they will go for election. Now what they are electing here? So now they are electing their DR, they are electing DR and BDR. Now what is DR and BDR? So what they do election first, and by the election they choose DR and they choose BDR. What is DR? DR is designated router. Now designated router is the router who is responsible for updating all the network topology to this OSPF network. That means if any changes happens in the OSPF topology means in a network, like when some network comes and goes and something changes in your network, so it is updated to DR. That means only one router in your network. If your network have 20 routers or 100 routers, there is only one router will become DR, and all the other routers will become non-DR, non-designated. So non-designated routers inform DR about any changes. Whatever changes of topology happens in the network, they inform to DR, and DR will inform to other routers. Sometimes suppose router 3 faces some changes here, so router 3 will inform the changes about the changes to DR, and then DR will update the changes to other routers. Now what is BDR? So BDR is just like a non-DR router. It is also a non-DR router, which is not a designated router, but it is actually a second designated router. It is backup designated router. Now in case when the DR is not available, if suppose the DR is down, the router which is DR, which is elected as a DR, is not working. So in that situation, this BDR will take place of that DR. It is just like we have president and vice president. So when you lose a president, then vice president take place in that presidency and take the important decisions. So BDR is just a backup designated router. It is also a non-designated router. It is also non-DR like other routers. So it is only what? When DR is not available, then this BDR take place into that DR. Now who wins the election here, and how they decide that who is going to be a DR and who is going to be non-DR routers? Now for electing the DR and the non-DR routers, what they do, they share their router ID. All the routers will share their router ID to each other. Now what is the router ID? So router ID is basically, or by default, router ID is the highest IP of any interface of particular router. Now for example, if I am in router 1, so in router 1 I have two interfaces, interface serial, interface fast Ethernet. In fast Ethernet interface I have IP of 10.0.100. Then on this interface of serial I have 20.0.0.1. Now within 10 and 20, what is the highest number? So basically it is 20.0.0.1. So this IP will become the router ID for router 1. So for router 1, the router ID is 20.0.0.1. Now if you go to router 2, so we have three interfaces here, and on those three interfaces we have IP of 20.0.0.2, 30.0.0.100 and 40.0.0.1. Now among these three IPs, the maximum IP is this. So this will become what? Router ID for router 2. Now for router 3, the router ID will be this, because it has three interfaces, two interfaces, which is one has 40.0.0.2 and the second is having 50.0.0.100. So with these two IPs, within these two IP, the 50 is maximum, so this IP will become the router ID for router 3. Now we know the router ID for each other, so they share with them, like this router share with router 2, because the router 2 is the neighbor for router 1. So it says my router ID is 20.1 and router 2 says my ID is 40.1. Now they will decide who will win. So within router 2 and 1 and 2, router 2 says what? My ID is 40.1 and router 1 says my ID is 20.1. Now who will win within these two? So the IP, the router ID, the minimum router ID will win. So when they compare their router ID, so whatever the router ID is minimum, that will win. That will win the election. That means when router 2 says my ID is 20.1 and router 1 says router 1 says 20.1 and router 2 says my ID is 40.1, so who will win? This router 1 will win, and it says my ID is less than your, so I am the winner. Now when router 2 communicate with router 3, so they will say who is the winner here. So this we can say 50 and 40, we can say 40 is less than 50. So router 2 says okay, I am having the less ID, router ID, that means I can win the election. But when it connects to router 1, router 1 says okay, I am having less than you. So when they communicate to each other, when this neighbor says I am having 50, this neighbor says I am having 40 to this side and this side, so by exchanging this information, they come to know that who is the router ID, which router ID is minimum and who is going to win it. So in this case, in this scenario, router 1 wins the election and it becomes the DR. Now the second best is what? This 40. So the second best is 40, the third best is 50. So in this case, the router 2 will become the BDR, backup designated router. So in case the DR is not available, so BDR can take place of that DR. Now after they have done the election, then what they do? They start exchanging their information to each other. Their information, that means their topology. Now router 1 says I am connected to network 10 and network 20, and then it will say what is my matrix for network 10 and what is my matrix for network 20. Now what is the matrix for OSPF? So the matrix for OSPF is cost. Now what is the cost? Cost, just like in real life, cost is what? Money. How much money you pay for anything, any object or any service. Now if you are paying $40 for something and if you are getting the same thing in $50 from the other side, so which is less, which will you take actually? If you are getting the same object, same thing in $40 and $50, so which cost you will choose? So we will choose less cost. Same here, if you are having two networks and you are having two paths to reach the same network, so you will calculate the cost for it. Now how it will calculate the cost here? So it actually calculate the cost based on bandwidth. Based on bandwidth, that means, so we have a topology like this. For example, we are having one network here in this side, and we have one network in this side. Now we have two paths to reach each other. Like from this network, if I want to go to this network, I have two paths. Now two paths, so which path it will take? Now in the distance vector protocol, they count the hop. That means how many routers are coming in between, and they say, okay, the router 2 here, when I go from here, router 1, router 2 and router 3, 3 hops I can reach to this network. From this side, 1 and 2 I can reach to this network. So which is less, so this one is less and this one wins. Now for OSPF, what it do, it does not take distance. It is not a distance vector protocol, it is actually link state protocol. So link state do what? It checks the status of link, and that is what? Bandwidth. So it checks the bandwidth, checks the status of the network, that is bandwidth actually, and based on the bandwidth it calculates the cost. That means higher the bandwidth, lower the cost. Very simple. That means higher the bandwidth, that means if you are having 10 Mbps here, link of 10 Mbps here and 10 Mbps here, and here you are having 100 Mbps speed, here you are having 10 Mbps, and here you are having 50 Mbps. Now when you combine the bandwidth from here to there, so you will get from here to there, you will get 20. You will get maximum up to 20 Mbps speed. But when you go from this side, what you will get? You will get 100, 50 and 60. You will get at least 160 Mbps. Now which path is faster than the other path? So we can easily say that this is the fastest path. So I can go from here, and this is what the fast path. Now if you are using RIP, no matter what is the bandwidth here, it will still go from the shortest side. It will still take this 20 MB side. Why? Because it is having less hop counts. It does not care about the bandwidth, unless the bandwidth is slow, but still it will take this path. But in this protocol OSPF, it checks the status of link, and that is why it is called link state. So whether it is the shortest hop here, it is having only 2 hops in this path, but still you are having less speed. That means less bandwidth you are getting. Now in this side you are having more hop counts, but still you are getting more bandwidth. So it will always choose this path, and that is what OSPF's matrix. So matrix is actually cost, and the cost it will calculate by calculating the bandwidth. It uses a formula to calculate the bandwidth, and then it comes up with the unique value after using that formula. What is the formula? So here we can see this is the formula. Formula means what? In an OSPF matrix is called a cost. The cost is calculated, and cost of interface is inversely proportional to the bandwidth of that interface, and a higher bandwidth indicates a lower cost. So when you get higher bandwidth, you will get lower cost. Just like you are having low cost, that means you will purchase only the thing which is having low cost. So formula for the cost is what? That is, cost is equal to, this is the constant value, it always use this value, it is in bits, and then it is divided by the bandwidth in bit per second. So for example, if you are having a 10 Mbps Ethernet speed, so it will be divided by this constant value, and what you will get, your cost will be 10. And if you are having T1 link, Now T1 link is ISDN link, and it is basically 64. It is basically this speed maximum. It is kbps, and here it is bits. So it is not as it is not in 10 Mbps. It is very less than 10 Mbps. So what, it will again divided by this constant value, and you will get what, 64. So which is faster than the other one? So we can say this one is faster, this one is slower. So you get this cost by using this formula. Remember, this value is constant, it will always be the same, and this side it will put the bandwidth, and then it will get the total cost. And based on the cost, they do what? They use this path which is having a less cost. That means this router will say my 10 network cost 0. Why it is 0? Because it is connected directly to this network. Network 20, it is also cost 0. Why? Because it is also connected to the same network, or it is divided by, it is using the formula based on the bandwidth. Then it will send this information to router 2. Now router 2 will say, okay, 20 I know, but I don't know about 10. So whatever the cost, it sends from here. For example, it is sending 0. So whatever the cost it is sending, not 0, let's say it is sending 10. Cost is 10. Then it will combine the cost of this link, and then it becomes the cost for that network 10 for this router 2. For example, and network 20 for router 2, AD value is 1110, and let's say it is 64 for it, and connected to serial 0. Then connected network, it is also have connected network 30, AD value is 1110, and let's say the cost is 10. Cost I am taking out like after calculating the formula. Then it is having one more network connected, that is network 40. Let's say 110, cost is again 64 I am saying, and it is connected to serial 1. Now in this router 3 we have connected network 40, 1110, and the cost is let's say 64, connected on serial 1. Then connected network 50 from AD value is 1110, and it is also, let's say 10. It is connected to fast Ethernet 0. So this is what the default network, the default routing table they have. Now when they exchange their net routing table to each other, so suppose this router 1 sends it to router 2. So router 2 says, okay, I know about 20, but I don't know about 10. So it says, okay, I know about 10 now, and the AD value is 1110. Now what is the cost here? So the cost it will calculate by adding the current value. Like this is what 10, the router 1 is sending 10, and it is coming from what, this interface from here, from this 20 network. Now for 20 it is having 64 already, so 64 cost is already there for network 20, and this router 1 is saying 10. So it will add these two values, and it will become what, 74. So 64 is already there, and then it is adding 10 for it, and then it becomes 64 for it. The information is coming from serial 0. So it will add the interface, add the network cost into the cost which is sent by the other router. Then same formula I do it for the 50 also. When it gets the 50 from the other network, from this side, from router 3, It says okay, I got 50, and also it is 1110. Now 50, it is also again saying 10, so it will add the network cost again, like it is coming from this network 50, network 40, cost for it is 64, so it will add that, it becomes 74 here, and is coming from serial 1. Now when they send this routing table to other routers, so they come to know that I know the 30 network, which is 1110. Now cost for 30 is what? This one is saying 10, and he's having 64 for 20 again, so it will make it 74. Coming from serial 0, then OSPF knows about 40, which is 1110, and now for 40 again it is saying, now 40 for 40 it is saying 64 from here, and then already it is 20 is having also 64, so 64 and 64 it becomes what? 128. Coming from serial 0. Then for 50, it knows about 50, again AD value 1110. Now cost for 50, router 2 is saying that I am having cost of 74, so it will add its own cost of link of the network which is coming from there, the coming network. So 74 plus 64, it becomes 138, I hope, coming from serial 0. And that is how they are creating the routing table. I am just giving the example of the cost. It can be different based on the speed of the link, so it is not necessary that always you will get this cost. It is totally depending on the bandwidth of the link. So whatever the bandwidth you have, the cost will depending on that. So from here 40 30 network will come to 1110. The cost for 30 will be 10 plus 64 will be 74, and the information came from serial 1. Then 60, not 60, what is it? 20, 1110. Now for 20, it is also again 64 plus 64 and 28. Serial 1. Then OSPF 10. Now for 10, this router 2 is saying I am having 74, so it will add one more 64 here and it becomes 138, coming from serial 1. Now they have created this routing table with it. Now if we check in our routing what we have done, so you may see like something like that. So this is our router 1. Let's check the routing table again, show IP route. So we can see here somehow it is looking same. So we can see here that okay, it is getting 70 65. Okay, my calculation is a little miscalculation. It is actually, I think for network 30 it is getting what? 64 cost. That means what? That means for router 1 it is 65. 65 means actually the network 30 it is sending from here is 64. As I said, it is depending on what the calculation on the bandwidth what it gets. So network 20 it reaches, for network 30 it goes from this network 20 which is cost is 64. You can see it is 64 and it added 1 into it and becomes 65. I don't know what is it. It is actually based on the speed. So as I said, it could be difference. So whatever, it is not necessary that always you will see the same cost. I was just mentioning the rough limit. So it is basically based on the speed of internet, speed of your link. But these are the cost. AD value will always be that 110, and this is how they create the routing table. Now, what the communication they do? What are the communication they do? So what are the communication or updates they have? So basically they don't do it like RIP. RIP do it what? They do it in broadcast way. Like if RIP wants to inform other network about the other network, then RIP do what? RIP sends broadcast to each other. But OSPF don't do the broadcast. Instead of using the broadcast, OSPF use hello protocol. It uses the hello protocol. Now hello protocol do what? Hello protocol sends hello messages to each other, to each and every neighbor. Like router 2, it has two neighbors, router 3 and router 2. So as soon as we configure the OSPF on this router 2 will start sending the hello packets, hello messages. It is just like you say somebody hello, and then somebody will reply back to you as hello. So when this router 2 says hello to router 3 will reply with this hello also. So these two routers do two-way communication. It is not like broadcast, like router 2 sends the broadcast and does not care about anything, like the router 3 is getting the broadcast or not getting the broadcast. So whatever the router 2 wants to send to the router 3, it sends with this hello protocol. Hello protocol, why it is called hello? Because they do like hello. It works like hello. When you say someone hello, then someone will reply with you with the hello. Now because of this hello protocol, there is no loop, there is no routing loops we have in OSPF like we have in RIP. So there is no routing loop we have in this OSPF, and that is why it supports a big and large network, and we can use this OSPF in a large network because it does not create routing loops, because it uses this hello protocol. So whenever anything changes, so very quickly they just inform the other router about it. They just don't wait for the update time. Update time is still there. It is a 90-second update timer. So after every 90 seconds they will send the update to each other. That means this router 1C send the routing table to router 2 after every 90 seconds. That is there. But if it loses any network in between, then directly it will inform to router 2 by using this hello protocol. It will just say hello, I lose this network, and then router 2 will say okay, hello, I know that, okay, I note it, and then router 2 will inform to router 3, hello, router 1, now this network 10 is not available, and then router 2 will reply with its own hello and say hello, I noted it. So it is just like this. So there is no chances of loop happens in this OSPF. It is very less chances, and because of that it can supports the large network. And because of these routing loops, the RIP does not support the large network, and that is why RIP has a hop count limit. Now OSPF has a hop count limit also, that is 100, but it can go up to 100 to 255 limits. That means it is very big, very big, and it supports very large network. So because of this hello protocol and these hello messages, there is no chances of loop here. So there are other messages it sends and receive also. That is the type of communication this OSPF has, that is hello communication. These hello messages are used as a form of greeting to allow a router to discover other adjacent routers on its local link and network. That means when they discover the neighborship, so how they discover? They just send the hello messages to each other, and within the hello messages they send their router ID, their network topology informations, their name and other informations, and area information, subnet information, and router ID. It sends with this hello messages to the neighbor router, and then neighbor router sends back the message with this. That means they are greeting to each other. These messages establish relationship between neighboring devices called adjacencies. and communicate key parameters about how OSPF is to be used in the autonomous system or area. Then there is another kind of communication happens in between the OSPF, two routers of OSPF, and first is what? The hello message. The second is what? This database description. This database description messages contain description of the topology of the autonomous system or area. That means after creating the neighborship, they exchange their database of topology to create the shortest path for the network. Now this database convey the content of the link state database, that is LSDB, for the area from one router to other. Communicating a large LSDB may require several messages to be sent by having the sending device designated as a master device, that is what DR, and sending messages in sequence with the slave recipient of the LSDB information responding with the acknowledgement. That means this database, these communications will happen with the DR and non-DR routers. Then we have another, that is link state request. These link state requests messages are used by one router to request updated information about a portion of the LSDB from another router. That means when one router asks the information about the other router's database of topology or area information, so it sends what? Link state request. Then the message is specified this message specifies the exactly which links about which the requesting device wants more current information. That means latest information. What are the current information? What are the current networks are connected? What are not connected, and all that. So okay, then we have number 4, that is link state update. This is the request and this is what? The update. So when someone requests the status of the link, then the other router will send the update, and these messages contain updated information about the state of certain link on the LSDB. They are sent in response to the link state request message and also broadcast or multicast by routers on a regular basis, that is 90 seconds. So their contents are used to update the information in the LSDB of routers that receive them. So with the help of this updates, which happens after every 90 seconds, they update their routing table, their database of topology. And this is link state acknowledgement. So whenever you send the request or update, you will get the acknowledgement. These messages provide reliability to the link state exchange process by explicitly acknowledge recipient of a link state update messages. So when these request sends, it sends the update, and when it sends the update, it asks for acknowledgement. That means the router one router will ask for the request and the other router sends the update, and then router 1 will send the acknowledgement that I got the message. And that is why what? There is no loop here. So these are the different kind of communication messages happens between the OSPF routers. Now the next thing is what? Area. Now what is area? We have mentioned when we were configuring the router, we mentioned the area ID. Now what is that area ID? First is autonomous system. Now autonomous system is what? It is a single routing domain. That means when your company, it is owned by a single company or single proprietary owner, so it calls a single autonomous system. So single autonomous system, that means it is your routing domain. That means this is your single routing domain. That means it is belongs to your company. Other companies will have other domains. Now within the domain, now OSPF do what? To make sure efficient routing, it divides this single autonomous system into different multiple areas. Now if you want to communicate, now it divides it into multiple different areas, like this is area 0, then we have other areas like area 1, area 2, it could be area 3 here, then we could have area 4 here, we could have area 5 here. So it divides basically single autonomous, that is single routing domain, into multiple different areas. Now why it do it for the efficient routing. For example, suppose you are having, this is your own company, but your company is having different offices in different countries. Maybe this area is in different country and this area is in different country, and they are connected with the slow WAN link. Suppose these areas are in different countries and they are connected with the slow WAN link. Now in a slow WAN link, if suppose you are having in area 0, you are having 1000 different networks. So you can see what is the routing table. That means routing table is very big, which is having 1000 entries, where you have 500 here, you have 600 here, you may have 700 here, you have 1000 here also, you have 2000 here, different networks. It's a big network. Now that means what? In any given time, in any router of any area, if you go with this normal configuration, so we can assume like in any router, suppose in this router area 2 we have one router, and when I give show IP route command on this router, so it must know about all these other networks we have in the same autonomous system number. We are assuming like we are not having area. So if suppose we are not having area, these are just like different countries, offices of different countries, and these are not area. So because they are in same autonomous number, that means they can communicate to each other. Now if I open a routing table on this single router of this area 2, so how much entries we have here in the routing table? We will get 500 plus 1000 plus 1000 plus 2000, it is becomes 3500, then we get 4200, then we get 5800. That means in a single router, when you give a command show IP route, you will see 5800 entries, and it is a big routing table. And that means within the area, for example, within the same area, if this router is sending the routing table update to this router, this other router, now what that means is this router is sending the whole 5800 routing information to this router. Now within the area, maybe they are in same city or they are in same office, so maybe they are having fast link. Now suppose this router is sending the update to another router in another area. Now this is what connected with the slow WAN link. Maybe it could be a kbps. Now if this router is sending the update to other router in the other area, it is sending the update of 5800 links, 800 routings. That is the networks it is sending. It can be a big routing table. And it can be a very difficult. Now that means what? You will lose the whole bandwidth from this port, this link, because every router is sending update to each other, and that what you can have a lots of load on your WAN links. So making this efficient, what they do in OSPF, we can divide the areas. Now remember first one thing, when you divide the areas, then you do summarization. If you are not doing the summarization, then you are not dividing the area. Area is basically we divide the OSPF areas because of summarization. If you are not doing network summarization, there is no point of dividing it into areas. So dividing area is basically for route summarization. Now what is the route summarization? It is simple summarizing the route into single to decrease the routing table. For example, when I have the router here which is connected to the other area router. Now this router is connected to the network or the router of other area, or maybe we can have a single router in between these two areas which is connecting these two areas. Now what, we have 600 entries here, and in the other side, in other areas, we have 7, 2000, 1000, 1000 and 5000. That means when this router gets the routing table for this area, it will get these number of entries. That means 3000, 5200. 5200 networks information it is getting from the all these other areas to this area 3. Or when this router sends the network update to other areas, it will send the information about 600 networks. Now this is how the network table, the routing table gets big. Now when you do the summarization, then what we do actually, we summarize this whole 600 networks into one. That means when this area 3 sends the information about the other about its area to other areas, it will send information about only one network. That means these areas will know only one network about it. For area 1, they know only one network. So the routing table is getting small. Now when this area, these areas will send here their information. That means what, route 2 area 2 summarize the network into 1 and it sends to area 0. Then area 5 will summarize the network and send only 1. Then this will send only 1. This will send only 1. That means 1, 2, 3, 4. Now in area 0 you have 1000 plus 4 routing network information. So when this area 0 sends information to area 3, so it will send for 1000, it will summarize into 1, and the other summarized network is 4, so it will send only information about 5 summarized network. So instead of sending 5200 network information to area 3, it will send only 5 networks, 5 summarized network. So here in this area, whenever you see any routing table, you will see 600 plus 5, only 605 networks here. It is less than almost 500 and 5800. So every area will do what? It will summarize its own network into one single network and send the update to other area. Now designing is very important. So whenever you are going to configure the OSPF, designing is very important. So basically what they do, they design it like this, where all the areas connected to area 0, and area 0 is called backbone area. Otherwise we can connect all the areas together by using the mesh topology. We can do this also. We can connect them directly to each other. We can do this all. We can do this this type of communication also. But it could become what? Very difficult also. So they do what? They connect all the areas to area 0. That means it called backbone area. Now backbone area knows about all the other areas, but other areas don't know about other areas. That means area 4 don't know about area 1, 5, 2, 3. It knows only area 0. So whatever the update it wants to send and receive, it will send to area 0. Now area 0 will send the update to other areas and receive the update from other areas and send to this particular area. Same as for all the other areas. So it gets very simple for managing. Now designing is important because it can get very complex. This routing protocol is complex, and it is just an information I am giving, basic information. It is more than this. So we have different areas also here in OSPF. We have different type of areas also. Different type of areas are like, so these are the different type of areas we have in OSPF. First is like standard area. This is an ordinary or standard area, are areas that connects to the backbone. That means these are normal areas which directly connect to backbone area. They don't know anything about any other area. They only know about backbone area. In ordinary area, every router knows about every network in the area. That means if they know everything, every network about their own area, and each router has the same topological database, then however the routing tables will be unique from the respective of the router and its position within the area. So in standard area, all the routers knows about their own area. They don't know anything about the other area, only they know about the backbone area, that is area 0. Then we have another type of area that is called stub area. Now this is an area that will not accept the external summary routes. This area prevents or blocks link state advertisement, that is type 4 and 5, which we have already seen. That is link state update and request. It does not accept this update and request information communication. It blocks it. That means it will not accept any external summary routes. This area has only default route to connect to router areas or external areas, and every router within the area can see every network within the area and the networks within other areas. Stub area is normally used in hub and spoke topology. That these stub areas are like the areas which is separated to the topology. Basically they are connected to the backbone area. Now they are not getting the update from the backbone area about these other areas. They will not accept these information. They will block these information. So in their routing table of this area, all the routers in this area knows about each other, but they don't know about anything here. Even they don't know about the backbone area information. They only know the default route. Default route, that means if they want to communicate to any other area, any other network in these areas, then they do what? They use the default route for it. Default route, that means network 0.0.0.0 with the subnet mask of 0.0.0. That means they know, these routers knows that if you want to go to any other network, then you can go from here, from this backbone area. That means from going with this default route. So they don't know about any of these networks, they just know about default route. This kind of area, it can be like a small branch office where there is no big and high configuration routers are there to handle the big routing tables. So we can use this default route to communicate, to connect them into our network, and without putting some too much load on those routers. So they use with this default route to connect the other areas. They don't accept communication from the other areas, update information about the other areas networks, and it is called the stub area. Then we have totally stubby area also. This totally stubby area is a special type of stub area. It is also a stub area, does not accept message 3, 4 and 5. That means it does not accept any request, does not accept any update, also does not accept the acknowledgement. And also this area communicates with other areas via default route, that is this. And this area is normally used for small branches or network area or isolated area with few routers and routes. This stub area at least support message 3, message number 3, but does not support 4 and 5. 4 and 5 is what? This is update and this is acknowledgement, and this is what? Request. They support the request information but does not send any update or receive any update. But here it does not accept the request, it does not send request, accept update, and also not send any acknowledgement. Then we have another area, not so stubby area. Now this is also a special type of area which is connected to OSPF area and also to external network via redistribution. And this area is a type of stub area but accepts external router. This area does not accept messages of number 4 and 5, not accept the update and any acknowledgement, but still it is connected to external network, that means outside of the we can say autonomous number. So these are the different areas we have in OSPF. So these are the areas of OSPF we have, which is standard area, stub area, totally stubby area and not so stubby area. So we have seen now how the OSPF works and how they do the communication, what are the areas we have, what are the communication types we have. These are the number 4, number 3, number 4 and number 5 informations. Okay, now when we use areas for doing the route summarization. That route summarization we will see next time. And also we will see the next time, we will see also that what is the benefit of using the wildcard bit. Okay.